What is up, Mets fans? Welcome to the first episode of the offseason. I hate that. Don't love that one bit. The offseason has officially started. The Mets, of course, lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS. We got a lot of cleanup to do on today's episode. Just how we're feeling a couple days later. Talk about David Stearns addressing the media after the season's officially over. He has a lot to say. Jeff Passan being a nice guy to us. John Mayer giving major props to the New York Mets, which was crazy, bizarre. Talk a little bit about the World Series, too, because the ESPN and Fox have been so weird about it. And then we're finishing off with a mailbag and voicemail episode. That's going to be the majority of it. This cleanup stuff is going to be 5-10 minutes here at the beginning, and then we're going to answer your guys' questions from Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to get involved in the next mailbag and voicemail and everything that goes on, make sure you follow us on our social media at Mets'd Up on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd Up Podcast YouTube channel to see the video version of this. And if you're listening to us, we appreciate you. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, Overcast, whatever it is, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. We got some funny reviews to read out as well at the end of the podcast. But James, it's been a couple days since the knife was stabbed in our heart and twisted. How are you feeling?
Yeah, hand up. I was really mad on Sunday night.
You were mad.
I was pissed just watching the season end and kind of seeing this like bizarre outpouring of either extreme negativity or extreme positivity. Because if you guys listen to this podcast, you know I love to hang out in the middle. That's my favorite place to be. There's no such thing as an absolute. I learned that through my history classes in college. But I'm still upset, but I'm obviously hopeful. Like on Monday, I spent a nice day. Went upstate. I just climbed a mountain, laid down a rock in the sun amongst the trees for a few hours. That was just what I needed to do to clear my head, and it was nice. It worked. I feel better now. Again, like just hopeful, okay, but sad. We're going to talk about everything Stearns said to the media on Wednesday afternoon, but like something he said that was great was that he literally opened his first line. It still stings. It should sting. That means we made it far enough for it to really hurt. That's exactly, I think, kind of encapsulates it really well, how I'm feeling and how I'm still feeling, how I was feeling then, how I'm feeling now, and how I'm going to feel another week from now.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling better, but it still sucks. I know we went on with our guy Mike Janella. He was doing a little Instagram live before we actually recorded this podcast, and he asked a similar question. I'm like, I was a little bit I was more disappointed and upset when they initially lost. Now I'm just like sad of like, oh, I don't get to watch this team anymore. There's no more baseball for us. I have to watch the Dodgers Yankees. That's absolute hell. It's just there's a huge hole right now in my life, and I don't really know how to fill it. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
You've been playing a lot.
I've been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2.
I've seen you at the PSN.
It's an absolute blast. You went to the real mountains. I'm playing in fake mountains, and then I've been working more. I've been making more videos, just trying to keep busy. Because any moment that I have where like I'm downtime a little bit, like even between when I ate dinner and watched the Knicks game last night, I was like, oh, man, I can't believe the Mets season's over.
There was a good comment. We love doing our little like Mets fan safe space therapy session after like big losses or big wins before big moments on our Twitter account. And someone replied, we got almost 600 responses, so I'm scrolling through now. I couldn't find it before this. Yeah, it was really good. But someone was like, if we won the World Series, I still would have been sad the season was over because that's how much fun this season was. I was like, that was a really good way to encapsulate it. I would have been less sad because we would have just won the World Series, of course, but I thought that was a good way to phrase it, just being like, this was so fun. Anytime it ever ended, it would have felt like a shot in the heart. And that is just in total how it did feel.
Yeah, no, that was who said that? Give them a shout out.
I know, I'm scrolling looking for it right now. But
that's a really good way to put it.
I know, we got like 600 replies. I can't find it.
Whatever, don't matter. Him, Howie, whoever it was, they were waxing poetic beautifully. It was awesome. And it's a weird vibe because this is one of the first times in a while that there is some optimism going into the offseason because of how this season went and because of the people that are in place and in charge with David Stearns and Mendoza and Steve Cohen, who's got unlimited money. That stuff hasn't really ever happened for us as Mets fans. So this is going to be a new offseason, new outlook on what's going on too. And we got to see a little bit of it today with David Stearns addressing the media, giving us some great voice clips here about, you said, still sings. Our success this year doesn't mean anything for our success next year. It's like this guy listens to our podcast. That's almost verbatim what we said after the Dodgers ripped our hearts out.
Or it's just me idolizing him in general, so that's part of it too. But Howie Rose has been talking about this too a lot because he made this comment during his diatribe. And again, it's all been all over Twitter. If you guys want to listen to what Howie Rose was doing, it's even still, if you have Sirius, you have all this, you can go back to the game feed from Mets Dodgers on Sunday night, and you could just fast forward ahead to the last like 20 minutes of it because the whole time he's just speaking in poem. So it's great stuff. But he compared this Mets run to the 1984 Mets team. But he said that 1984 team, they had gotten Keith. They had Doc, they had Daryl. Like there was this core that was building and very obviously like going to come of age together. He said that was special. But this time it's the confidence of Stearns, Mendoza, Cohen all together at the top here. And it's just, I said this on Janelle's live stream too, but that's just kind of like a little bit about baseball now these days because it's so much about the executive, it's so much about the central decision maker. And he is the first Mets central decision maker in our entire lives that we've ever actually been confident in. So it's amazing to hear his process. Some other great things he said. People talked about, I think it was DeComo, he asked, how are you going to maintain like everything you did this year? We're going to have so many different players next year. Because again, we're going to have a lot of different players next year. We're going to get to that with you guys mailbag towards the end in a couple of minutes here. But he said every year will be different. The goal is just to keep the passion, keep the fun, and keep the desire to win. And someone asked him about Pete Alonso. Like, did the last 3 weeks do anything to change like whether or not Pete was going to come back or what his future was going to hold? He was like, Pete's a great Met. We hope to have him back. It will be a process. He was like, he said he was joking around with Pete before he went to the press conference because Pete, he was going in and Pete was in the tunnel. He was like about to answer a lot of questions about you. Pete was like, good luck. And then he said with Pete or any free agent, there's no magic formula, which I think is especially true of Pete because we see such a big difference between like what he earns as a player in WAR and how valuable he is because of his run production. Someone asked him about hiring a GM. He said, I'm not eager to hire a GM. I'm not going through a huge search process here. So I think he's just comfortable with who's there and him and everyone else beneath him.
I think also you don't need one. You don't really need a GM. Not. And I think the term GM in this Mets organization would be very much on the non-baseball operations side. I think you'd be taking care of all the other stuff. David Stearns is making all the baseball operations decisions. There's nobody else who's getting to make that final say besides him.
And they're also definitely saving GM, like we talked about a lot on off-season shows. Like a lot of these baseball titles are fake because when other teams want to hire people from your organization, they can only interview and hire them if they're giving them a bump up in title. So you reserve GM if you want to hire someone else as assistant GM. Or if someone wants to hire one of your assistant GMs, you make them the GM. They still under the popo. Like that's kind of what that is. But if someone is your GM, then someone else can hire them to be their president. So it's all semantics, jargon, bullshit, and all these baseball front office stuff. But then he said, someone asked him about like how comfortable are you going to be doing rebuilding his whole rotation? We're going to lose a lot of innings. He was like, we did that last year. It worked. Like I'm going to just do it again, right?
Did you guys forget Sean Manaea, Luis Severino were not a part of this team when the year this team when the offseason started last year?
Yeah, and the big thing is that he was just so non-committal on every single question he got. About Ryan Mauricio, about Bailey, about Mark Vientos changing positions, about the rotation, about the bullpen, about everyone. He was just like, yeah, we'll just see what happens. We got to evaluate. We just don't know yet.
There's literally no reason to be committal right now. Also, he can't technically make comments about players that are not going to be on the Mets team right now. So you're not going to hear him talk about signing Juan Soto, about the ability like that would technically be tampering. The season is still technically going on. Pete Alonso, I don't think is officially a free agent until the last out of the World Series is made. So you can't really make a lot of these comments even if you wanted to yet. But I do love how close to the chest he's keeping things. And that's something that we talked about a lot this offseason that we noticed. No leaks, no nothing.
Yeah, and it's also just, there was another quote that was going around big time on SNY that got sent to me in I think 3 different group chats already, where it's that like, having this money, every player in the universe is accessible to us. But then the next thing that Stearns said after that didn't get clipped everywhere is that, but the goal is not to build a team through free agency. The goal is to spend money in free agency to complement your team. We want to build this team in a way that is sustainable through the future with success, and we want to do it in a way that can let us win for a long time. So we're not going to spend all our money basically in one offseason is what he said. He said, we're definitely going to spend a chunk of it, and he started laughing. He's like, we're definitely going to try and spend a chunk of it. But then it's again, the same mantra that, and I think it was kind of the same as last offseason, just to start to get into this little preview right before we get to your guys' mailbag, where if you don't sign Juan Soto, I don't think that means you sign Corbin Burns. I think every single player has their own valuation, and Stearns is just not going to go past that, even if it means you just go through a whole offseason and don't get a big fish.
Entire player universe is accessible to us. That was my favorite thing that I heard.
That's it.
We can get anybody, and that's gotta be fun for David Stearns. He just simply didn't have that opportunity where he previously was.
Yeah, and he made like a comment about that too. He's like, "Yeah, this guy got some money now. Like this is gonna be fun," because it is shitty for Stearns that this season he got to the exact furthest point he's ever gotten as an executive, which was in 2018, losing Game 6 to the Dodgers in the NLCS with the Brewers. So it's the same for him right now. But he also just had a Brewers offseason. You said that before we started recording. So like, let's have a New York offseason now. Or again, maybe you don't get the guys you want. And it doesn't mean you just spend all the money because you have it. It means you keep making the right smart decisions.
Yeah,
like, I'd rather get this year Sean Manaea than buy a bad contract. Like that's just something I think Mets fans are gonna have to be ready for.
God, people must hate you, dude. You're like the absolute worst with this. You're like, I don't know if the Mets will sign anybody big, and you know what? Maybe they don't have to.
I mean, it's fucking true. We just saw it this year, but I am excited for like the firestorm of anger and hate and vitriol that we're going to get like through January. Same thing we got last year, but the forgetting of how far the team went with bits and scraps. But just a couple things to just get before we do the voicemails. Did you see they caught Shohei speaking English?
I mean, I've seen plenty of clips on him speaking English. He knows how to speak English. He's not an idiot.
No, yeah. So yeah, shout out. I still never know what joke he was telling Cameron Brink way back when. But
I know.
Just we said before, really happy Howie had this special month. Like Howie's entering his twilight. He announced fewer games this year than he has, I think, ever. He went on fewer road trips, a lot of opportunities for Keith and Pat to get more games too. But super cool that he got to do this run, and he went mega viral a few times and is back majorly in like the full baseball lexicon.
Yeah, no, he was incredible. And again, there's not really many guys around right now in baseball that will be able to articulate the way that Howie does, especially the ending of a season like he did.
Yeah. And then I guess this just leads into, I want to do a few media marvels because we haven't done them in a while, and a lot of people deserve them right now. So you said at the top, ESPN and Fox just making these Mets hate graphics to dump on us. Losers.
Crazy. It was crazy. That was so weird. Because, like, have you ever seen a news outlet publication that's not like the New York Post or like clearly has a dog in the race be like, hey, fuck the team that just lost. They suck. They lost.
Yeah, and I don't really hate this from ESPN because they haven't been like a serious sports outlet in a decade now. So they're just truthfully a farm for engagement. So if you're going to be a farm for engagement, you're going to try and poke the Mets fans because you know they're going to come at you full force, and we did. So shout out to us for getting after them, but also that they got literally whoever that social media worker was or the intern or the social
did a great
media manager,
job.
Go back to their bosses, show all this engagement. Like, yeah, well, look at us. We had a great month. Like now everyone else can be happy for another month and not worry about that. But Fox, just also the way they called that series, the way they were posting graphics about it, like, come on, guys. Like I understand their bias was they wanted LA and New York, but unbelievably ridiculous. But also, like, if Gary Cohen was calling a national game, he would be rooting for the Mets openly.
Sure.
That's part of it too. But the objectivity that should happen in some elements of the coverage wasn't there at all. That was annoying always.
Made me miss Joe Buck. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, I mean, I my take on Joe Buck. I think Joe Buck is wildly underrated, but
I think he's fine in football. Baseball, I thought he sucked.
Some other ones that are big time here that really caught my eye. Did you see what the New York Yankees posted on Twitter when they beat the Guardians?
No, what'd they post?
You didn't see this? You didn't see this clip? You didn't see this tweet?
No, I was at a wedding.
I'll be honest. This was something I literally could not believe when they posted it. This made
send it to me on Twitter while you're talking about it.
Yeah, I'm scrolling to grab right now. This made the eulogy for what was his name, Kissinger, look like a walk in the park.
Kissinger eulogy is electric still.
It was a picture on the Cleveland field for the Cleveland Guardians, who were formerly named the Cleveland Indians, and this team is named the Yankees. And the caption was, "This land is my land."
Oh no!
Man, unbelievable.
Oh no! What?
This land is our land, yeah. Oh, because like Cleveland, they call Cleveland the land. I thought that's what they were doing, but they didn't really think of like the what's it called, the manifest destiny aspect of it. Yeah, they missed that one. So that shout out the Yankees for that. That was an unbelievable thing to see.
That's awesome.
Also, just shout out to Philly fans out there. You guys are a special kind of loser. I understand you got your teeth kicked in by the Knicks with the Sixers. Then you got your teeth kicked in by the Mets and the Phillies. But for your guys' only thing that you're talking about on Twitter right now is being happy the Mets lost. Yeah, nice, good job, guys. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot from them. I'm getting a lot from the Brewers fans too. Granted, I did call them losers from a loser fucking city, so I went a little overboard there, no doubt. There was someone who DM'd me like literally last night. I wanted to be like, "What? Did the news just get to Milwaukee on carrier pigeon? Like you're a couple days late there, buddy." But yeah, the Philly fans talking trash. I'm like, I know you're not bragging about being the first loser, right? Like that doesn't make any sense.
No, it can't. And there's a lot of Philly accounts right now, like big Philly accounts. And we definitely have these similar accounts in the Mets Twitter community. That the only thing they're talking about is how proud they are the Mets are out. So yeah, good for you guys. Yeah, happy for you guys that you got to lose a series and have some salsa. And then another media marvel I wanted to bring back. I was doing this a lot. I'm just going to bring it back for a while. You guys remember Neil Greenberg, who a couple years ago San Francisco Lindor was done?
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah, so shout out to him for that Washington Post article from 3 years ago saying it was a bad contract. He's not a good baseball player, so we're not going to have that anymore.
No, and then of course we have to bring up my favorite Keith McPherson, only tweeting about the Mets when his team's in the World Series. It's
the best.
I mean, listen, tip the cap. He does what he does. He's on WFAN, and he very much has a shtick, and he sticks to it. But it is always very funny when he cries wolf and then pretends like he doesn't do it. That's the part that's annoying.
Yeah, and then he was on the Foul Territory show, and he was non-committal about if the Yankees should re-sign Juan Soto,
which is crazy. That
doesn't make any sense. He was giving you for free, and he led you to the World Series. Now you're like, we don't know.
If only they had Michael King in those relievers, that would have made all the Padres.
Yeah, right. Padres. All the Padres needed was a little more pitching. They would have gotten there. How many innings they get shut out straight to lose? 23.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it was good for them. That was good. You definitely didn't need another bat.
Need to make sure you had Randy Vasquez and whoever the fuck else they traded for. What was it? Johnny Burrito? That's who you liked. That I was like, I don't fucking care.
I thought it'd be a lot better. But all right, that was clean up. Let's do some mailbag stuff.
Yep. But first, we got a quick ad for Mint Mobile.
I love a great deal, but I'm not going to run sprints in the outfield just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. With Mint Mobile, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. Purchase and activation is super easy too.
To get started, go to mintmobile.com/territory. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Mailbag. This is, man, I really wish we didn't have to do this, but you know what we're going to. You guys were amazing all season long. It's the least that we could do is answer your guys' questions. Now that we can. Again, this is the first offseason. We are unfiltered. We can talk to you about anything we physically want to, which is so much fun, especially for a team that has the most money in baseball, because we have the opportunity to sign anyone, like David Stern said. The entire player universe is accessible to us. We've got some voicemails. We've got some tweets. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't start off with Frankie Peppers, though, of course, with the first question saying, what is your one big hunch for the Mets next season? It can be anything. Who we sign, what we win, who will become a new certified rat. You know the deal. Never mind. Oh, he said he sent us an Instagram. I read it, unfortunately, for you, Frankie. But big hunch, James, for the Mets season in 2024. What do you got? Or no, let me do that again. Big hunch for the Mets season in 2025. What do you got? 2024 is over.
Can I say something that might be psycho?
Yeah, say it. It better be positive.
I don't know if it's positive or not. I think there's a chance Edwin Diaz is not on this team next year.
Ooh,
that's a hot take.
That was my take earlier in the year. Remember me being like, I think David Stearns is going to get rid of Edwin Diaz, and it has really nothing to do with Edwin at all.
No,
it's just the fact that
pitcher.
David Stearns historically never paid closers. That's not has nothing to do with the Brewers as well. It's just like hey, we can make like 10 more of these guys out of thin air like they did in Milwaukee. And granted, we know the Mets bullpen was a huge mess this year, so it might be a little bit different because we don't have that next man up right now like they did in Milwaukee. But paying your closer, $20 million a year, you kind of see the handcuff it can have almost on the rest of this team in bullpen.
Yeah, because the closer, even as good as Edwin is, and even as bad as he was sometimes this year, he's still perennially a top 5 closer in baseball.
Yeah,
and I have no qualm saying that. If not a top 3, if not a top 2. So maybe 3. I'll settle in at 3. Yeah. But I just think that we saw this through this playoff run. The thing that hampered the Mets bullpen was mostly depth. And when you pay one of your relievers $20 million, he's never going to be perfect. It's not how baseball works, not how the world works. You're gonna lose the opportunity to have other guys to supplement them. And I think I don't think it's going to happen. Frankie asked for a hunch. That was more of a hot take. That was more of like something's deep in my gut, something telling me something. I think there just might wind up being a surprising trade.
So I think there's going to be a surprising trade. I think we're going to get someone big, though. I think the Mets are getting Garrett Crochet. I really do. I've been thinking about the last couple of days. I've been looking at what the White Sox farm system needs, which is just anything. They need baseball players. Mets kind of have a surplus right now of major league-ish ready prospects that I think the White Sox could be interested in. Garrett Crochet, I think, will be traded this offseason. I think my big hunch is going to be that Garrett Crochet is a New York Met.
Okay, then I'll ask you this, because now we've gotten to one of our 100 questions that we've been asked since we're 18 minutes into the podcast.
That's fine. Well, they were 3 minutes into the mailbag.
There you go. If you had to trade one of the major league ready prospects, who would you trade?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I would be trading. Are we talking about Acuna as one of them too?
Any of them. Anyone's played the game in AAA?
I think it's going to be Luis Angel right now. And the reason being is that with Ronnie Mauricio here, I think he kind of becomes. Oh, wait, Jet Williams is a AAA.
He counts in this.
It's Jet Williams. Unfortunately, because now with Mauricio and Acuna, he kind of becomes just extra. And it's not that Jet could be the best one of all three. There's a super possibility he's a stud. In terms of value, I think he probably is the highest guy too that the Mets would be able to trade if they were going after someone big. So I'm going to go Jet.
All right, yeah, I agree with that. I think Jet, it definitely is the best, the highest on that, but yeah, I'm with you on there. Here's from Kev Higg. Do MLB teams need to consider a type of load management plan? Do Pete and Lindor need to play every game? I mean, honestly, I don't know. Baseball it's definitely a physical grind, but I feel like if you keep yourself in tune, players have played 162 games over and over again. Pete played 175 games this year. That's the most any Met has ever played in a single season, just with the playoffs and everything. And I don't know, it didn't seem to affect him. He got better as the season went on. Lindor got through a back injury took his week off, and then he kept playing. I don't know. I'm comfortable with your baseball players playing as much as possible. The only time I would take them out is if there's an obvious injury concern, guys that get off injured, or just for general platoon things, which those players do not have.
Yeah, I don't think there needs to be any load management. I think maybe for older players, like we saw with JD Martinez at one point, he just kind of got ran into the ground, and he definitely needed some days off, and it helped him at times. But for a guy like Lindor, he's played every single day his entire career. It seems like he's at his best when he's playing every single day. A guy like Pete, at his best when he's playing every single day. Maybe Nimmo, a guy who gets like nicked and bruised a little bit more throughout the season. I think it's more of a case by case basis rather than an overarching blanket statement like it is in the NBA of like sometimes your players are just going to sit for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, and again, it's just sometimes your team isn't good enough to let those players sit. Like load management matters in the NBA because I don't know, those NBA regular season games seem to mostly mean nothing. Like imagine if Pete got one off day this year and Mets lose one more game. We don't make the playoffs. None of this stuff even happens. Like the margins are so razor thin that you almost just can never do that. Next question from Maureen at MStudledLGM. Do you think the Mets should trade Beatty since he's proven that he cannot play in New York? I think that's a little harsh.
Yeah, I think that's a little crazy to say he's proven he cannot play in New York. Again, remember what Mark Vientos did before this year.
Also, Brett Beatty hasn't proven he can play anywhere besides New York. It's not. I don't think this is a New York thing for Brett Beatty. I don't think it's like within the city limits.
I think it's very much that Brett Beatty has some holes in his game right now, just like Mark Vientos did coming into this season. Like he has holes in his game. There's room for improvement. I'm for sure not giving up on Brett Beatty yet. There's nothing that tells you he can't come up and be a very productive player for this team. I'm not going to tell you he's going to be the next Mark Vientos type pop-off because that's insane. We might not get one of those ever again, like you said. But I think if the right deal is available for Brett Beatty, you make the move because he is kind of a little bit redundant on this team right now. But there's no reason to give him up for scraps, which I think some Mets fans are willing to do.
Well, what's a comp right now for a Brett Beatty deal that's happened? Like, who's a perennial top 30-ish prospect that was traded after a very poor stint in the major leagues? The only one I can really think of is this past season, Miguel Vargas, who was part of a trade that got other parts but was traded with other people. Like, if Brett Beatty's a difference maker in a package that can get the Mets multiple pieces that will impact the major league roster, I'm down to do it. But I don't think that Brett Beatty alone can really net you much successfly in a trade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing the Dylan Carlson for Sean Armstrong trade like you saw the Cardinals do. And they ended up cutting Sean Armstrong, I think, a week later. So,
and I think Carlson because just for defensive value, is better than Brett Beatty because he can handle center field. And the Rays already seem to have done a swing change with Dylan Carlson's already unlocked more power. So I think it's just kind of figure out a way with him. The best thing is coaching, but if an offer comes up, like Stern said, like all options are open. There's no reason just to get Brett Beatty off this roster for scraps. And I'm sure we're going to get a question about this, but I want to get this out of the way right away. All Mets fans think that we're just Jeff McNeil's not going to be on this team next year. There's like a 98% chance Jeff McNeil's on this team next year. No one is taking this contract on. I think it's 3 more years for about $40 million is about what he is. He's not just going to magically disappear. To make a trade, someone else needs to be on the other side of the trade. So unless you're taking on somebody else's shitty contract, like it's really, even though we have a glut of middle infielders, but we saw from how baseball works this year, a team like the Reds or the Dodgers, having a glut of players just means that you have reinforcements for when guys absolutely eventually get hurt. He will be on this team next year. Just getting ahead of that one.
Yeah, he has value too. He plays multiple positions. He can play the outfield like this. These are things, and the second half was great for him, but before the injury. So I think a lot of people are, this is what happens in the offseason. You're eager to make trades, eager to make moves. How does the team get instantly better right now today? And that's what a lot of these questions are. We got one here from The Real Chuck. Sasks, has your evaluation of Alvarez changed at all after a relatively down year? James, what do you got?
A little, but not really. I don't know. Like, was Francisco Alvarez ever an MVP candidate? I thought in the offseason that he had a chance to go nuclear. And like when I would say go nuclear, it'd be like just basically cover up the holes in his swing, figure out a way to be like a 35 homer guy who could actually hit 260, 270. Like that would become one of the most valuable players in baseball playing catcher. That would become William Contreras. I still think that ceiling is here. He's still very young for a catcher to have played this much. I think he's caught the most postseason games. Matt Eddy did a tweet about it in the postseason for anyone, a catcher age 22 or younger. He had some ups and downs this year, but a lot of it comes from the fact that he is 22. Like, he is emotional. Like, he said this is the first time in his entire baseball life he's ever struggled. Like, that wears on you. He got exposed a lot of times, both for pitches outside in the strike zone, for pitches up and in. He kind of moved in, he kind of moved out. He was kind of playing cat and mouse with the pitchers, and they were winning for a while, but he also had times when he won too. So I don't think the long term has changed, but I also just think there's a good lesson for everyone that, like we say all the time, we're really annoying with this shit. Development is not linear. Like, you don't just get better. 2 points a year, like MLB The Show. Like, he could show up next year, be 30 points better than he was this year, or he could show him be 1 more point worse, or just 1 more point better. Like, it's just, there's a push and pull here, and there's a lot of work to still be done with Francisco Alvarez.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's really changed for me is maybe that ceiling, like you said, where I don't know if he's going to be that perennial MVP type catcher, but I still think because of how hard he hits the ball, and defensively, he is great besides blocking. Like, there's a lot of really good things in his game. There's just also some worries because the eagerness and the swing and miss and being 22 years old is definitely part of it, like you mentioned. I still have all the utmost faith in Francisco Alvarez, and I think just another year of being a major leaguer, working on what he's got to work on. We know this dude works harder than almost anybody, as we've seen. I have all the faith in this guy for sure.
And he's so young than all the other catchers, so much younger than all the other catchers. Adley Rutschman's 45 years old. William Contreras just turned 26. Like, there's a lot more time for Francisco Alvarez to get to a point where we're like, oh, this is an all-star.
All right, I got another one here from Colby. What do you see our infield looking like for the future? Lots of options and only 3 real spots. 3 real spots. Is McNeil just an outfielder once Mauricio is back? Will Jet see the field as a Met if we bring back Pete? He just wants to know what the infield's looking like for the future. I'll start it off with mine. I think first base, and this is going to, oh, man. I think Pete's back. I do. I think Pete's back. So I think I'm going to go Alvarez catcher, Pete first base. Second base next year, I expect starting second base is going to be a platoon between Jeff McNeil and Luis Angel Acuna. Shortstop, you have Lindor. Third base, Mark Vientos. He also might be a little bit of a DH, and Ronnie Mauricio could play a little bit of third base too. Ryan Mauricio also tore his ACL. We got to see him like just exist as a human being and play baseball before we make any big decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans try to put like players in positions and lock them down, where realistically, like, these things are fluid and they move around a lot. I think what happens with the Mets infield when we start next season is just that, like you said, there are some platoons on it. A couple of these guys make the team. A couple of them maybe don't have as good of an offseason, don't have the good of spring training, wind up back in AAA because they're all still really young, especially Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna. Still guys who could definitely get more at-bats in AAA. I don't think that'd be shocking, but I just think one of them is on the roster next year, like, instead of Zach Short and Joey Wendell. Like,
yes.
Remember how when those guys started the year, and like same thing with like Jose Iglesias. Like, you sign Jose Iglesias for Major League depth and put him in AAA to start the year because you don't have these Major League ready guys. So it's not a bad thing that now you have them. You just don't have to worry about bringing that kind of guy in from the market. You can just have them in house. If Jeff McNeil struggles or gets hurt, Luis Angel Acuna plays. If he struggles or gets hurt, Ryan Mauricio plays. If he struggles or gets hurt, and this guy and Jet Williams is playing well, maybe he gets a shot. Like, now we just have some interchangeable parts. That is a good thing and not a bad thing. I don't think that. Yeah, I think it's good the Mets aren't putting themselves in boxes with any of these guys.
Yeah, fluidity is a great thing to have. Again, look at what the Dodgers just did. Everybody plays every position except for the one guy who's the best player in baseball.
I'll even say this: like, I don't even think the Mets are out on actually going out and acquiring a second baseman if they miss out on some of the top free agents. Truthfully, would you be surprised if the Mets give Gleyber Torres a bridge deal? So you can have one more year to build up his value?
I would be surprised if the Mets
really?
went after Gleyber Torres. That doesn't seem like money well
spent.
A
1 for 20? A 1 for 20?
Yeah, that would be I actually would be unbelievably against that. I think that'd be awful. I think that'd be a terrible move. I can't see David Stearns making it.
If you don't get Soto, and let's say you also don't get Pete.
I would rather spend those $20 million on 7 relievers than Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres, I know he's having a good postseason. He's a completely nothing player right now.
Okay, this part I disagree with, but again, keep moving on.
Yeah,
Gleyber's a good ball player. He's gonna be a good ball player for a long time.
Whatever.
All
right, I got another question for you. Load up a voicemail as I'm reading this one out too, so that we can mix in a voicemail between these. Yeah, pro podcasting here. This one comes from Matt. what would the starting rotation be next year? / who would you realistically like to see on the Mets starting rotation from free agency? I got one guy, Corbin Burns, would love him. He would be great in this rotation. The relationship with him and David Stearns, I'm not sure about because David Stearns was the main guy.
They both put that to bed.
Oh, they did? They both said it's over?
Yeah, they both said that's no big deal.
Good. Oh, love to hear that. That's amazing. Yeah, Corbin Burns is the number one guy I want.
Well, can I tell you this?
Yes.
I don't love Corbin Burns at the money he's going to get.
Well, what's his money going to be?
I think if you have to commit 7 years to Corbin Burns, I'd be out.
Really? What would you commit to him?
I don't think I would commit more than a 5-year deal to him. I think that you've seen some fall down over the last 2 years with Corbin Burns. You've seen some less movement on his pitches. You've seen his cutter become not the dominant pitch it always once was. I think that he's someone who, I don't know. Like I would have trouble being like, I'm going to give Corbin Burns like the Garrett Cole contracts. That's kind of what he's going to need. I don't exactly think that is someone that would do it. Truthfully, my number one option in the market, and you're going to hate me for this. Mets fans are going to despise me for saying this.
I can't wait to scream.
I'd rather have Blake Snell than Corbin Burns.
Oh, I'm not going to hate you for that. I mean,
okay.
I think it's crazy, but I'm not going to hate you for it. That's not. I don't agree, but I don't hate it.
I think you're going to be able to give Blake Snell basically half of the amount of years you're going to have to give Corbin Burns. And I think Corbin Burns has shown basically a very small. I think Corbin Burns is still a really good pitcher, but I think that he sometimes is perceived as a top 5 pitcher. And I think in reality now he's more like a top 15, top 17 pitcher.
Okay.
So I think if you have to pay him like a top 5 pitcher, but you're getting a top 17 pitcher and one who might be slowly declining, but also someone who could probably still bounce back a little bit, there were some things that happened this year with his pitch movement, his swing and miss. Like, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, I mean, he had a
wasn't as consistent.
23% K rate, which I think was like the lowest since he ever became a starting pitcher again, where Blake Snell just had the highest K rate of his career at 34.7%. Granted, 100 innings. That's always the concern with Blake Snell. Corbin Burns has given you innings the last 4 years consistently. Blake Snell has not.
Yeah, you saw Corbin Burns kind of also almost tried to reinvent himself as a pitcher this year. Not reinvent himself, but you see this sometimes when pitchers go to new teams, try a lot of stuff really quickly. Maybe some of it works, maybe some of it doesn't. He also got to the Brewers relatively late in the offseason last year, so they could have been inundated with information, but there was a lot more up and down to his arsenal that used to be much more of an east to west arsenal, and then more sweeper, more slider, more curveball, and far fewer cutters because that cutter was not as. I mean, it was still really good. The color's still amazing, but it's just there's incremental shit on Corbin Burns where I'm just like, I don't know if he's ever going to be a top 5 pitcher again, so I don't know if I want to pay him like one.
That's fair. You know what? I can get behind that take. I still want him, but
sure. But like for a 7 for 230,
it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
That's something I just pulled out of my ass because it's close to the Garrett Cole contract.
I was thinking
so I really don't
30
know.
mil. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, exactly. But then, because then you have a guy like Snell who I'm sure doesn't get more than 3 years. I'd rather just have less years than a big contract like that. If Yusei Kikuchi only wants $2 million. Two years, 2 for 50 for Kikuchi. Bring me 2 Kikuchi. Michael Wacha's been unreal the last couple of years. I love Michael Wacha too. Michael Wacha's been such a steady guy. He might want too much money because he's been too good now. But God, a guy like Pavetta is my weakness.
Yep.
That's my kryptonite.
Him and Kikuchi, if they get them in the offseason, how happy are you?
I'll be fucking thrilled. I'll be ecstatic, over the moon. I mean, there's also shitty guys in the bottom here. I'm sure Frankie Montas get cut loose again. I'd love to give Frankie Montas another $10 million. I mean, Matt Boyd this year, he somehow recouped tons of his value, getting that changeup back. 1 year, $10 million again. I think a lot of Mets fans we won, let's get the big guys now. Where I think this is going to be again discovering the Severinos and Minayas rather than repaying Severino and Minaya.
I think it's also interesting too. I trust whoever they get, they have a plan because let's be honest. Going into the season, if you said Sean Manaea was going to be one of your best pitchers, I would have laughed in your face. There was no way I saw that happening. I saw him being a productive pitcher, but I didn't see him being as good as he was. So
the best.
Whoever David Stearns and the Mets decide they want to sign, I'm just going to blindly accept that it was probably a good move. And then until it stinks, like it.
Yeah, Spencer Turnbull's here. People are going to hate it. Then Spencer Turnbull's going to have a 3.3 ERA in the middle of June. Spencer Turnbull, actually, this kind of was working out.
What a great, savvy deal by the Mets.
I think it's just going to be chaos. It'll be this will be disgusting. I wouldn't even be able to defend this one. When we get Patrick Corbin for 1 for 10, and he just throws 180 innings on a 4.3 ERA in the back of the rotation. Yeah, he just becomes Quintana. Nick Martinez went ballistic when he got moved to the rotation this year. He's got a lot of pitches, very cerebral. There's just a lot of stuff you can do. Imagine the thrill of signing Jordan Montgomery for $12 million this year after everyone wanted him for 25 last year. Imagine that thrill. That's what David Stern's thinking about right now. So I just think everyone needs to be, us included, because we might not like some of these moves.
Sure.
Got to be open-minded with this rotation and what winds up happening here.
Hit us with one of those voicemails now.
Oh, yeah. I got too excited. I closed my phone.
Oh, wait. Before we do the voicemail, we got to run another ad.
Definitely.
Almost forgot. We got to do ads on this podcast now. Completely forgot. Now you got the voicemail for us.
Got from our boy, Willie. Wow. Wait.
What's Willie got?
It's a 4-minute voicemail.
4 minutes?
I don't know. I'll start it, Willie. Thank you for your excitement. You're the man.
I mean, Willie's a legend.
Can't do 4 minutes. I'm sorry. We're going to see where this goes.
So I just sat there in silent, thankful, tearful appreciation of this team after that game on Sunday. And boy, I was exhausted Monday and took the day off work and slept in and then just went out in the countryside to detox. But this is one of the best rides we've been on. And for a team that people were mocking David Stearns over spring training when he insisted we would be competing for a wild card spot in the fall with this team, we underestimated him. And I think that smile on David Stearns' face had in mind that he thought we were competing for a heck of a lot more.
I'm going to pause Willie. I'm going to scroll ahead. Willie just did his own podcast for us. I don't know who I talked to for 4 minutes.
I didn't know you could do voice messages for 4 minutes on Instagram. Frankie Peppers always has to stop his.
Thank you for the podcast, Willie.
Willie, appreciate you. You didn't get a question in there, so we got nothing to answer, but thank you. We appreciate it.
Future voicemails. Guys, keep them like 30 seconds. And but Willie, you can keep your 4-minute limit. We'll give you that because you're a great friend. So keep moving on here for some other questions.
I've got one.
You got one?
Yeah, this comes from Nick. Where would you guys rank Juan Soto in importance for the Mets this offseason?
The highest, the most, everything.
Number one? I mean, where would you rank the third best player in Major League Baseball? Do you think the Mets need him the most? Yes. Look what he did for this Yankees team. This team had no vibe, no juice, no energy. They're in the World Series, granted, because they're the best team in the AL Central. But Juan Soto changed a lot with that clubhouse, that locker room, that vibe, and also he's fucking good.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most consequential free agents in our lifetime. Like Shohei had it last year, but always kind of felt like it was a guarantee he was going to wind up a Dodger. Yeah. Where Soto, it does feel like it's kind of up in the air between the Mets and the Yankees. I think it's much more likely Yankees, but I don't think that means the Mets are out. Every single resource should be spent on trying to get Juan Soto this offseason. Nothing should happen until he makes his decision.
No, absolutely not. He's you kind of can't really do anything until he does. All right, let's see what else we've got here. I mean, a lot of people asking us, can chickens fly? Chickens can fly, right?
No, chickens definitely cannot fly.
What do they do when they get up is that just a jump?
I think it's like a jump with air.
Okay.
You have wings.
A jump with air, you said, not hair, right?
Air.
What are you playing right now?
I'm trying to get more stuff from the Instagram.
Oh, okay, got it. This guy's falling apart. Professional podcast. All right, I'll find another question for it. Oh, you're going to love this one, James. I think we kind of did answer it, but in a perfect yet realistic world, who are the 5/6 starters in the Mets rotation in 2025? I think we're going to take that as like the 5th and 6th starter.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Tyler McGill with another chance.
No doubt,
to be the 5th, 6th starter because you're lucky to have some organizational depth with him and David Peterson that can just be good at any given moment or also be bad at some certain moments. You're going to see him there. We're going to see Brandon Sproat get a chance. I saw some pitcher prospect questions, so I'll save some of the stuff on Sproat until we start talking about it there. But he got his taste at AAA. He didn't pitch very well there, but he's going to have a chance, just like Christian Scott, to come through in spring training. If he looks good early in the season, by May, you're going to start to think that's a serious possibility. And then you're probably going to see Boudreaux get another chance there too. Like I think they're still going to try Boudreaux as a starter, similar to McGill, similar to Peterson. Just start until you absolutely and positively fail there.
Yep. All right, we got a combination here from Isaac and Jack. Shout out Isaac, shout out Jack. Basically both asking who is the brightest pitching prospect in the Mets farm system. And I'm going to say this, not name Brandon Sproat because we know that's going to be your answer.
Yeah. I think it's still definitely Nolan McLean. He still has so much more to learn and to do and to grow as a pitcher, and he still probably has the best pitch in the Mets minor league system, which is his sweeper. It's a sweeper that I've said before. I'll say it again. Going back to all these quips after we just had the playoff run. It feels like we just got dizzy for
I know, right?
We
haven't talked about prospects in literally months.
I know. I forgot half these guys existed. But Nolan McLean just has a sweeper that would be one of the best pitches in Major League Baseball right now. If he can fine-tune a fastball, find a cutter to bridge them, like you have you have someone that could be a literal monster. Like, it's someone that can maybe contribute down the stretch in 2025. I think that's distinctly possible.
Yeah, I don't think this guy will make an impact on the team next year, but I do think Jonah Tong is also worth having the conversation about as one of the brightest Mets pitching prospects. He just dominated every single level this year. Granted, Double-A was only 9 innings, but in those 2 starts, a 2.80 ERA, he struck out 14 of the 37 batters he faced. He walked only 4. Like, there was just really good things that we've seen from Jonah Tong in his second professional season ever pitching at age 21 that leaves you to be really excited about what he could do next year with a full year at Double-A, maybe even get to Triple-A by the end of it.
Yeah, someone that's a freak and that could wind up being one of the most exciting pitching prospects in all of baseball by the time we get to next summer. And I got some questions from the Instagram. They're also on starting pitching here. There's a good one from Jack. Where does Mauricio fit in next year? Part 1. And part 2, do you still see David Peterson as a starter or a long reliever? I think David Peterson has earned his right to start until he 100%. Proves otherwise. I also think that he's not as rock solid maybe as this year made him look still. I think he's still quite good, but I think David Peterson is still someone who's gonna gradually wind up in more of that high 3s, low 4s kind of guy. We're still trying to get some strikeouts. They're still trying to fine tune everything, but David Peterson definitely is going to enter next year in the Mets rotation.
No, David Peterson is for sure a Mets starting pitcher. It's not a question at all.
And then I think Mauricio, same as we said before, like he's just going to be in this mix, and he has a chance to prove himself. Also, he can take time if he needs it.
I also want to remind Mets fans too, and it's the same thing. Mauricio, as awesome as we think he can be, because the physical attributes are just out of control with him. The dude's fast. He hits bombs. He hits the ball hard. He did struggle mightily at the major league level in his first 26 games. There's a world, and you mentioned it earlier, where Mauricio starts the year in AAA just because he hasn't played professional baseball in a year. And we have Luis Angel Acuna who can play the same positions right now. There's no reason to rush into Ronnie Mauricio, who will be 24 on opening day next year. April 4th, 2001 is his birthday, which is crazy to say out loud. Let him play some baseball. Let him get comfortable. He'll be back up making an impact at some point. He still has a lot to prove. I think there's a lot of pressure almost being put on Ronnie Mauricio right now that's unnecessary.
I think all of these guys do. I think it's just a blessing for the Mets and different. It's a weird feeling for us Mets fans because we haven't seen the Mets develop this many major league caliber prospects at the same time in a long time. Like, we're getting an influx of like 6-7 position players in a 2-year stretch that could all be here for a very long time. Like, that's a really cool thing. I think it's just a good thing to give all of these kids space to do their development.
100%. All right. Chris says, what is the fear of regression with Minaya and Severino going so far past their prior inning totals? Would you avoid them for 2025, or is what they did sustainable? And I'll just hand that one off to you, pitching man.
First thing, might not matter. Good chance neither of these guys are Mets next year. But I think with Minaya, weirdly, this might be the answer some people aren't expecting, but I think for him it matters more. He's a little bit older than Severino. And I've done some reading, some stuff. Sarah did a piece about it, and I saw someone else, one of the Driveline guys. Can't remember right now. I mean, Jack Lambert do something about it. About when you change your arm angle in a pronounced way in the season, it can lead to more injuries down the line because you're doing something your body's not as used to doing. You're changing a processes like hard and in the middle of when you're working really hard, doing stuff really consistently. So I think, again, like he did run out of gas. I think that's just because of the fatigue of how much he did pitch this year. But I do weirdly think that there is a teeny tiny concern about, again, he might not be a Met, so it doesn't fucking matter. But whereas I think Severino on the other side, I'm more confident in him because when he leaned on that sinker this year, that pitch seemed for him specifically to be a little kinder on his arm. He stopped trying to overthrow his fastball to get that same backspin, the same hop he used to get that he wasn't able to achieve anymore. So, and I'm weirdly a little more confident in him than Minaya, but I'm still not concerned about either of them regression-wise. I think skills-wise they could each regress, but I think it's a good chance neither are a Met, so I don't care.
Yeah, I think if anybody is going to be a Met, I think the more likely pick is going to be Luis Severino. I really just can't see Minaya not getting paid this offseason.
No, I also can't see him getting paid by us.
No, it doesn't seem likely unless he's going to take a huge discount, which I don't think he is. He shouldn't. Go get paid.
I have a question here from Ben. What can we realistically expect from Mark Vientos? Was this year close to his offensive ceiling? Could there be better numbers in his future? Or should we expect some regression? I think that the sky has become the limit with Mark Vientos. I think Mark Vientos has put himself in position to become, truthfully, like something that looks like a star. And that's a hard line from where I used to think he was because there's been a tangible change in his game. His combination this year of improving his plate discipline while maintaining his power, while improving his pitch selection, put him up with some of the best players in the league. And I think at that point, like, you just really can't deny what he's capable of anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be very like Groundhog's Day, Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. But look at what JD Martinez did once he started to break out. They have very similar bat profiles. They both hit the ball hard. Both go to opposite field with power. JD Martinez, as a 26-year-old, when he really got his first playing time in Detroit, popped off for a 912 OPS. Vientos this year got his first playing time, 837. But the OPS pluses are like kind of similar in that same range of being like really good players.
Well, they're zone contacts. That's the one spot that Vientos still struggles and something that I think he can still improve upon. But maybe he just can't because of how powerful he is. Like maybe that's just something that never gets better. And that kind of, to me, reminds me more of like it's a little Schwarber-ish.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think also it's hard to almost compare the zone contact to from like 2014 to now just because pitching is just so massively different too.
But like that's where Vientos struggles because as much better as he got with his plate discipline, selectivity this year, which is amazing. Like he still just swings and misses a ton.
Yes.
But that's fine because he takes daddy hacks and he hits the ball 450 feet, so it doesn't really matter. But the thing that if he can't get better at that, it's just incrementally improving that chase rate a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. If that chase rate gets the league average, because it was still pretty well below league average this year, but he was still making, and his contact rate was still low too, which is still the one thing I guess that can lead to some regression when pitchers find a way to face him. But he just murders the baseball. He hits it so hard. He hits it so hard consistently. And now that he started pulling it, that was another big thing he improved this year. All those things together make me think that this is just super legit and here to stay, especially the selectivity. That's the one that was big. Because if you're chasing and you're missing in the zone and you're swinging at the wrong pitches, then it's kind of bullshit. It's kind of fake. But the fact he's swinging at the right pitches when he makes contact, it goes a long way. And that's what could make him a superstar.
100%. Quick one from our buddy Joe DeMeo. James, when are you getting your ears pierced?
7-8 years ago.
There you go. Love to hear that. Steve Miller with a serious question. How do you feel about the coaching staff moving forward? Any changes needed? I'll tell you what. I know we've been big dissenters of Eric Chavez and just the fact that we think he's not the best hitting coach for modern baseball. But I'm kind of okay with just letting things ride again. I don't think there needs to be any huge shakeups. Doesn't really matter what we think about the hitting coach. If the players like him and they feel comfortable and they feel like they're performing their best, I think that's more important than me and James's hitting philosophy being what the Mets actually do.
Yeah, and also I admitted that we ate some crow on here because it did seem like Alvarez struggled more when he got too obsessed with pulling. Then he had to take his deep breath, relax, just see the ball go through the hole a few times, and that's what kind of put him back on track. And Stearns was asked this question specifically in the press conference today. Again, like everything else, he was super non-committal on it. So we'll evaluate everything. We like all the coaches we have in the building, blah, 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 like he did for everything. So I think I'm pretty confident, as long as Jeremy Hefner goes nowhere.
Yeah, that's Jeremy Hefner, Carlos Mendoza cannot leave. Those are the two guys. Pay them all the money. Juan Soto, fuck them. Don't need them.
I got a question from the Instagram, changing tones a little bit just to break up some of the offseason talk. From random baseball players. What is the first memory you've ever had watching the Mets?
I really like the first conceptual memory I can think of is that Todd Pratt home run in '99. That's the first one.
When you were 3.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Watching baseball was 3. Crazy. But like, my dad said we watched baseball games all the time before that. The Todd Pratt one's the first one I remember, and I think part of it is because I called the police thinking that 917 was 911.
Okay, that's a good one. I didn't really conceptualize baseball until I was probably 5, 6-ish, but I remember weirdly a game the Mets played with the Expos in Montreal. I don't know why. It's like a zap in my memory. The first time I can recognize that I understood that what was happening on television and why I liked the guys in those colors, didn't like the guys in the other colors. For some reason, there was a game, and I don't even remember what that stadium was called, but in Montreal, like 2002-ish, and that was the first time I became like, I don't know, my brain was active watching baseball.
I think it's a good one. I like that. We've got a couple more gimmicky ones. Where's Kratz and Pierzynski? They can talk about this the next time we're on. Do the Mets bring back Grimace and or the OMG gimmicks for the 2025 season, or is it something that should be just left alone for 2024? I'm going to combine it with a question from Cody. If Jose Iglesias signs elsewhere, you can't play OMG in the stadium anymore, right?
I think this is going to be a huge talking point next year. We also have from David, same thing on Instagram. Do you bring back Grimace next year? I think there was another person who said it too. But I think we're going to have different. Oh, here's another one from A-Train. To team to continue now Grimmage OMG next season or let it go down with this season. I think that's going to be a talking point that we're going to be a little more in tune with than other people, because I think you and I would both be like, leave that shit in the fucking past.
Done. It's over.
But I don't think there's any way the Mets will do that. If we know anything about the Mets organization, is they will run a marketing campaign into the ground, and I think they plan to do that, especially with Grimace. I don't know about OMG because I think it does depend on Iglesias. If Iglesias retires, if he never plays another baseball game or he never plays an outside of Mets uniform, that's our song forever. I don't give a shit. Like, I was in my room the other day, and I heard a car drive by and OMG was playing out of the car. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, it brought a legit smile to my face. But the Grimace stuff is just simply going to make the Mets money. They probably are going to sign some kind of actual partnership with McDonald's, some kind of marketing campaign. So I'm sure it's going to be part. There might be shakes. There might be fries in the stadium next year.
McDonald's is going to be in the stadium next year for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're going to do this. This is just going to become like another way for a mega corporation to make some money, or two mega corporations to make money at the same time. If it was up to me, I would let bygones be bygones. I would say goodbye to Grimace. Thank you very much for your help. And then we have to find new gimmicks next year, but there's no chance the Mets actually do that.
No, yeah. I mean, we know how I thought about the seat, and that was when things were going well. I think
not yet. They were not going well yet.
Not going well yet. I
changed it soon.
Yeah, I do think that OMG for sure is dead if Jose Iglesias isn't here. If he's here, play it again. It's a great fucking song. It's a banger. It's a heater. I'm down. But the Grimace stuff, I think just tone it back a little bit. I'm not going to be like, get rid of it, completely kill it. But like, I don't know, maybe like opening day Grimace shows up. Sure, that's fine. A big series in June, Grimace shows up. Sure. But like, I don't want Grimace every single game like we kind of saw towards the end of the year. But the vibes were good at the end of the year. So that's when it works. Can't run it into the ground more than we have already.
Yeah, playoffs, we needed it. And I think the biggest thing, too, is it gets a lot of clicks online.
Yes.
That's a lot of what all these people really care about now. So they're going to hit the click button. Going to get some more offseason talk. Long episode for you guys. Going to hit another ad first, though.
All right. I think we're going to do 2 more questions here and then go over some reviews and then wrap up this long episode that we haven't been able to do in a while. I'm just seeing a lot about Mets moves besides Soto. And the name that keeps coming up is Anthony Santander. Do you have any interest in Anthony Santander? Does he have room on this team? What are your initial thoughts?
One reason all right, so differing viewpoints on here. I love the fact that Santander is a switch hitter. I love the fact that he can be someone, because sometimes this Mets lineup felt a tad right-handed heavy. The team's going to look a little different next year, so I guess that's no big deal. But I just like the fact that he would give a lot of balance in the middle of the lineup. I don't super love the fact that he's not a great defensive player. I don't super love the fact he's already 30 years old. I think you can probably, Teoscar Hernandez, I put in the exact same level as Santander too. Guys who are kind of one-dimensional players, but are really, really good at that single dimension. But then if you sign a guy like him, then that becomes Jesse Winker. That's the same thing. That's the same deal. So I don't think you get multiple of those guys, especially because the Mets are still paying Starling Marte $20 million next year. So there's not a lot of mobility for this team to get an outfielder that can't play center field defensively. So I just don't see a guy like Santander as likely for the Mets unless they go cheap in center field again with a similar, put me in a time machine, Harrison Baylor, Michael A. Taylor to be the center fielder again, and then you don't go hardcore for a DH, and then you get a Santander or a Teoscar Hernandez, or you bring back Jesse Winker, and they go rotationally with Marte and Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, no, I like Santander as a player. Obviously, 40 home runs is amazing. I think it will look a little bit different in Citi Field because Camden Yards does play a little bit smaller, especially for left-handed hitters now. And I just think the money that he's going to warrant on the market, it's going to sound crazy, but like theoretically, you could get the same production from like a Jesse.
Half the money.
Yeah, from like a Jesse Winker for half the money and not be tied up to a long-term contract. And I think that's the way you have to think with a guy like Santander. He's going to want to get paid. He deserves to get paid. He had 44 home runs. I don't really want to be the team to pay him.
So here's another guy then that's going to be out there again this year. Someone I know you haven't liked in the past. Someone I think I've liked more. Is there any chance the Mets go after Bellinger? Because he can play center field.
Is Bellinger going to opt out, you think? I don't know if he opts out.
Why wouldn't he opt out?
Because I don't know if he's going to get that money that he got. Like he did have a down year this year, and I think he's getting like 26 million.
But I think this year officially made him who he is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he's like a 22 homer, 10 steal, 750 OPS guy who could play good defensive center field.
Now, I did say I wanted Bellinger Oh, what just happened? My camera just died because it's so hot. It's so hot in my apartment. Oh my God. James, take over while I try to cool it off.
Take over. I just gave you a question. I got to take over. But again, otherwise past that, I have gotten a lot of questions here from different people about someone like Alex Bregman. That's a direction I really can't see the Mets going. They will only go in that direction if they both miss on Soto and Pete. I just want to pretend there's no world where that happens. I probably prefer Pete to Bregman just because I don't know. I don't know. Bregman did have a really good year after a really bad start. Bregman still might be an awesome baseball player, but Bregman does so much in the Crawford boxes. I don't know. Also, we're not – Citi Field left field is really not that deep either. He can kind of feast there. This year, he would have had doing the quick baseball savant measurable right now while Mark is just completely dying on me.
This is crazy.
If Alex Bregman hit 26 home runs this year, Mark, you can still hear me, right? Oh,
Yes.
my God, there you are.
Dude, I literally just grabbed an ice pack from the freezer and I just put it on top of the camera, and I hope it's going to cool it off.
Oh, you're back online right now. So
Good.
Bregman hit 26 home runs this year. If he would have played every game in Citi Field, guess how many he would have hit?
18.
25.
Whoa, not that different.
Citi Field's a sneaky, shallow left field. I think that gets discounted a little bit. Maybe that is a pivot for the Mets because he's so good defensively still. We still need contact over power, and we still need power over contact, and he's contact over power. I don't know. Maybe there's something that we are discounting, though. It's 30-year-old Alex Bregman, depending how many years he gets. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting little tiny pivots the Mets can make this offseason.
Did you finish up Bellinger? Because, again, I ran
No,
out.
I asked you a question, so I just moved on to Bregman.
Yeah, so Bellinger is due $27.5 million next season from the Cubs.
But it's on 1 year.
And then he has another player option the next year for $25 million. I just don't see him getting more than $27.5 million next season. And I don't think anybody's going to give him a longer-term contract that pays him significantly more where he wouldn't take that. So I would love Cody Bellinger to play center field for the Mets. That'd be awesome. He's a good center fielder. Good left-handed bat. I think he'd work really well, but I don't think that's really an option unless he signs and the Cubs trade him, which maybe the Mets try that. I don't know.
I don't know either. There's center field is the only place that this Mets lineup can obviously improve. So I think there's going to just be some if there's no center fielder on the market, because that's the other thing. Bellinger's the only center fielder on the market at all.
And he's not even really on the market.
Exactly. So he can be the only one on the market. So I don't know. But last year it's weird because then you still have Tyler O'Neill, Jerickson Profar is going to be interesting. Conforto, Canna, Mets fans are going to be clamoring for them to come back. It's just if the Mets have such a deep core of position players that they can kind of get a guy anywhere.
Yeah.
And just let the other guys filter in around them. But center field's the only one that obviously makes sense because they definitely need one of those.
All right, two more. Give us two voicemails because people did send us some stuff and my camera's dying. So I really just don't know how much longer I have.
All right, we got it. Here's from our guy, Bryant.
What's up, Mark and James? Love you guys. Like I told you before, you're my favorite Mets podcast and pretty much the only Mets podcast I listen to. My question is pretty simple. Do you think that the Mets will pick up any of the guys that are currently free agents right now with us? Of course they might go after Pete Alonso. They're gonna go after Pete Alonso, but do you think they'll go after Winker, Iglesias, Manaya, anyone else? Thank you.
I think by far the most likely is always going to be Pete.
Yes.
And I think after him, it's just who will take the least money.
And I think
maybe.
I think Stanik's another option too, by the way.
Yeah, I think Stanek is also a really good one. But I think it's just I don't think the Mets are going to be as aggressive with their own free agents. Because again, that is why we got into so much trouble before last year. Because the Mets had a 100-win season where they really won nothing at all and they completely fell apart and floundered.
Run it back.
Yeah, and then Billy Eppa was like, I want to give every single player the most money they've ever gotten before just for the vibes. And then it didn't fucking work out. I think most Met fans right now would not want Jeff McNeil's contract. I think most Met fans right now wouldn't even want Edwin Diaz's contract. I think everything that happened that offseason was almost a disaster. I think the Brandon Nimmo contract was still a victory. The Kodai Senga contract was a big victory. But I just think that we're in a new age, guys. We have an adult in the room. We're not giving players money based on feelings anymore.
You got another voicemail?
Yeah, I'll do one more. I was trying to pick who's going to be. I'm going to have to leave some people out, so I feel bad about that. But
my camera's cooled off a little bit.
All right, we got one from Andrew. I hadn't seen Andrew send us one in a while. Oh, he sent us one last time, but here's Andrew.
Hey, it's been 2 hours since you posted your story, so I figured it's probably too late to get a voicemail out in the video. But I just also want to let you guys know that this would be the same thing, either way, if it wasn't the video or it wasn't. I just wanted to let you and Mark know that you guys made this season really fun, and it was awesome being able to listen to you guys, interact with you guys here on Instagram and also on Twitter, and just being able to look forward to the videos after every single game. So you guys made the season really enjoyable. So I just want to thank you guys. I feel like you guys don't get enough love because you deserve it, and very excited to next season and being able to listen to you guys more.
Oh, well, thank you for being nice.
Thank you, Andrew. We did get a lot of nice messages. I flagged a couple too that we got. Just yeah, people were just really really cool about like us this year. Like a lot of people really appreciate the work. We got some really nice YouTube comments on the last episode. Appreciate you guys for listening. Like, this isn't a podcast if there's no one listening to it, and then it's just Mark and I hanging out, which is, again, we'll do that anyway. But like, I'm happy that we can, like, you guys are all there with us, and we're building this community. Because I feel like we have a real tight knit group of people now that listen to this show, like the show.
Yeah, we were hanging out with Brian at Murphy's Bar. We met so many of you guys out, and we're down to have beers with you guys when we're out at these bars and stuff. Like, come up to us, say hello. Let's watch the Mets together. It's fun.
Yeah, another message from our guy Brendan. He just said, like, don't know if to be featured, but I want to shout out you two guys for the insane work you put in every series, every game. You guys were there, even when things were terrible, basically unwatchable. You guys were there. Documenting sports important. Some people read the poster at Daily News when the Mets are on the cover. Some people listen to the radio. I listen to Mets'd Up. When I'm older, I'm not going to be telling my kids about Michael Kay or Buster Olney. I'm going to be telling them about Mark and James. Looking forward to 2025. Let's fucking go Mets.
That's awesome.
Nice message. Yeah, that was
really
cool.
nice.
Yeah, I got a lot of nice ones. I'll show them to you on the Instagram later. I also got a good one. Someone asked me, I want to get their name right now. They were like, did James hold true to his hunger strike at Citi Field and spend no dollars on concessions? That was from Skodar. And I did. Yep. And Mark is my proof. Yes. I didn't spend $1 in concessions at Citi Field this year. You know what? I might never again. I got through the whole year. Now I think I'm just done with it.
I mean, the prices are only going to get more expensive, so...
And then I gotta drink the beer. That's what I have to do. There's no choice there. But in terms of food, I might never eat food that the Mets game ever again.
It's pretty good. I mean, listen, the way the Schianos do it, they do it right. So if I had the preparation skills, I'd consider it as well.
All right, but do you want to do one more voicemail as you got the thing on your camera?
Yeah, give us one more. I do think I'm okay because I kind of got the fake AC cranking right now, and it has cooled off the apartment a little bit. But again, time is limited.
All right, we have a 7-second one from Theo. Theo's left some heat before. So
let's go, Theo.
Yo, boys. Great series. I have one question. How many goals should I score this soccer game?
How many goals should he score in the soccer game?
As many as you can.
4. Do the left foot, right foot, header, and penalty kick.
There you go. Left foot, right foot, header, penalty kick. So sorry if we didn't get some of your guys' voicemails. Of course, we have one more because we have to just end it the way we always end it. Frankie Pepper is going to do it. Guys, got to hear what he has to say. Oh, wait, didn't we answer his question already?
We answered his question already, but let's see what he's got. I'll edit out anything that's not necessary.
I figured I could just call in and get my question on here instead of sending it over Twitter because that website continues to get more like a hellhole each and every day. Anyway, I'm curious for like what one bold prediction, but not that bold, like a little bit bold. Just I want one prediction for something that's not a big prediction, like outside of a major free agent. Who are we going to sign, or who's going to have a breakout year, or who's going to become like a new rat? You know what for the Mets? I'm just interested in hearing like a little factoid about where you think something may wind up next year. It might not be an earth shaker, but interesting nonetheless. Appreciate you boys as always, and let's go Mets.
I know we technically answered it, but he did give us a little bit of a different question because I said Garrett Crochet, and you said, we're going to trade Edwin Diaz?
I said no Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, so what's a little tamer one maybe that you've got?
Tamer one about the Mets. I don't know.
Francisco Lindor makes the All-Star game finally? Is that a tamer one?
Maybe that's a good one.
Maybe he finally gets the recognition he deserves?
I think my tamer one could be that the Mets might entertain the second base market between Gleyber Torres and Brandon Lau.
Brandon Lau, get me him. Gleyber Torres, ugh.
No, you got to hold those takes true because for the Yankee bias. But I think they're both good ball players. And I think that while the Mets have a lot of options at second base, there's not really an obvious difference-making one. So I think there's a chance that if they can sign one of those guys to a short bridge deal, that it happens.
Dude, what was Gleyber Torres' OPS plus this year?
It was about terrible, like 84.
101. What was Jeff McNeil's?
103.
97. Like, is there a difference between them? You want to give him $20 million? That's what I'm saying.
I guess it's true. They both did struggle. They both got hot. So, yeah, maybe it's the same. But I just don't think I think they're going to try and improve this roster in ways that we might not be able to see, obviously, yet. I think that's when that could make sense.
Ugh, don't give me Gleyber. I'll be upset about that one. All right. Last thing, got to read this review, 2 reviews that we've got.
We actually have a lot of reviews. We haven't read them in a month. I was wrong. There's a bunch.
I guess there is. Well, we'll read 2 of them right now because this is a super long episode. This one is a -1, and it's hilarious. Shout out Reginald Fairfield, a 1-star review.
Gotta be a fake name, right?
Yeah, everything but the hosts. It's hard to find a podcast that records consistently, and this one does. Unfortunately, it's even harder to like these hosts. Pretty easy to see why the organization cut ties. So this is someone who's listened for a while and just was holding on to this.
I hate these guys.
It feels like that could be a maybe a little sneaky name there.
Yeah, it definitely could be. But this is also, I don't know. Like, if you guys are listening to us, thank you. You like us. I understand that this is the classic, the opposite of the Mrs. Seinfeld. How can anybody not like you? I understand how people cannot like us.
Yes.
We've definitely gotten some flack for some people. We're a little bit too... we're a little too exciting, we've heard. We like to have a little too much fun. I like that. We tell say some curse words. Some people hate us for that one. But you know what? If you guys didn't hear you like that, we appreciate you for that.
Yeah. And do you want to read one more review?
Yeah, I'll read one more review. Let's go. There's a couple long ones here. I'll do this one right here from Mets fan Trev. This was right when the playoffs were beginning. This is actually so long. There's 3 paragraphs. 4 paragraphs. Been listening to Mets'd Up Podcast. It's the first episode in 2021. Simply the best podcast for 2 guys who know ball, know how to dissect stats, interpret data. Plus, they happen to cover my favorite team. As Mets fans, I was raised in North Carolina and now I live in Atlanta. You guys can boo. I feel so validated to be a Mets fan on Monday. That was the doubleheader, of course, when the final out was made at Truist Park. That feeling that poured over me as I could be summed up as finally as looked over all my coworkers' faces of shock. Finally, we were not the ones with the crushed dreams. Finally, we were the dream crushers. Hell yeah. Then last night happened and Pete gave me even more hope. Ironic, in a different universe, Pete Alonso gets out in his last at-bat as a Met and leaves the team in classic Mets fashion. But in this universe, he had a signature moment that could earn him a contract and make him a Met for life. How can you not be romantic about baseball? This team is different. We fell flat in our face, then we hit home runs, we changed how history is written. Next time the Mets are in town against the Braves, let's make sure to flood the battery with Mets fanboys and maybe we can meet up. Let's go Mets. Remember, there's a Jose Budo podcast. We need him next series. He wasn't that good next series, but we're going to need him next year. We're definitely going to need him next year.
That was well said. I like that. Like in classic Mets fashion, Pete Alonso would have struck out or hit into a double play there. And that would have been the end of his Mets career. But things were different this year, and that's truly what made it a special season. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out for the first episode of the offseason of the Mets'd Up Podcast. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at Mets'd Up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd Up Podcast YouTube channel. We got some new graphics. Woo! New setup for you guys. New thumbnails, new everything. We're trying some stuff out this offseason, so really do appreciate all the support. And if you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Chiano.
I'm Giraffe Nick Mark with a C. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will catch you next week for another episode of the Mets'd Up Podcast. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll have something. So peace out.
Peace out. See you guys next time.